So welcome to our very first collab event between the new IT girls and XR Austria. My name is Gabs. I'm one of the organizers of XR Austria. And well, like I don't want to introduce everybody, so we make small introductions for everybody.
Hello everybody, I'm also Flavia, and I'm Flavia, I'm also from Austria. There are so many Flavias here today. So we are 4 organizers, and like Manuel and Axel also on the technical streaming side.
Yeah, my name is Doris, I'm from the new IT girls, and I'm glad that we made it, because we are talking about a year or longer maybe, I don't know, since we know us.
Since we're
exactly. We're like, we need to do something together, and now we are doing it. I will introduce very briefly the new IT girls. We are a community for women in tech, no matter what job you are doing, basically. So we connect women, especially depending from all sectors and companies. Our goal is to build a safe space where we can connect, share ideas, network, learn from each other, grow together. And I'm also happy that Amelia is today here in the audience, because she is our mastermind behind the kids editorial course with microbits. So she's training 4 times a year kids between 10 to 13 years how to learn programming in a very easy and gamification way. So that's things we do, and we regularly host events online and offline, and we do have educational parts. So today are also some of our so-called the new IT Girls Boost Camp here, where we do have a cooperation with 2 companies where we can give around 40 women the possibility to learn the fields around AI. And yeah, also we are going to schools, be role models, and that's something we only can do with the community and with the female empowerment and the power of everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is actually something that brought us together. This wish and determination to make a safe space, right? I mean, when you said safe space, because with some of you don't know XR Austria yet. I mean, you see an XR Vienna banner. Like, we're actually rebranding our community because we actually grew now, right? I mean, like, we have members from different parts of Austria, and we are also focusing on being the platform for dialogue between creators and users, because we need more platforms that are actually creating this dialogue without having the fear, or how we call it, the ego or shame, let's say, of not going somewhere to inform themselves about technology, because there's this, I don't know enough, no, I know too much to go there, you know. So we're kind of like, our job is to be the equalizers of the whole immersive tech, or now AI as well, incorporated into our back community, to kind of be the ones creating this safe space for meaningful dialogue. And this is how we actually met.
And XREye has a really long story. It's like 10 years this year. So
Yeah.
Gabs and Axel started XREye in 2000. Yeah, and this year we rebranded to XR Austria. So because like we had always more members from everywhere in Austria, and we were like so many people asking, why you're just keeping to XR Vienna, and so we wanted to expand it a bit more.
Yeah,
to
exactly.
all Austria, yes.
And we also have, like, last thing, because we're also community partners with Women in Immersive Tech Europe. So we have international collaborations as well, like throughout these 10 years. And we are very determined to bring diversity in tech in every shape and form. And as we always say, we are fighting for equality, not world domination. And so we are raising the voices of women in the industry because it's needed. We need to tilt the scale, but at the same time, what we want is to create the long-awaited equality that I wouldn't call it earned, but deserved. So yeah, that's that being said, there's where's Ida? There you are. So Ida's going to say a few words.
Yeah,
And now, welcome, please.
These nice round of
So
ladies
please
here.
go there in
In the middle, okay.
I'm
Yeah,
just going to
welcome
shift
to
it.
CAPS. I'm part of the
a global learning team here at CAPS, so we have counterparts in all regions almost. So we have places where we build and shape mobility. That's what we do. We challenge the limits of mobility. We want to create a world without congestion, and that contributes to sustainable ways of living, of course. So we have offices in Latin America, Northern America, in EMEA, of course. In Spain, we have a huge entity, and in Australia, APAC region, and here, of course, is the headquarter. And by coincidence, so I've been supporting the new IT girls in the background for a long time, because I think it's just so amazing. We need to create these spaces, and I fully support the idea of a safe space to just explore and try things out. In another world, I may have become an IT engineer. I don't know. I was just discouraged on my growth journey, so I found my way through another door. So I'm now in a tech organization that creates mobility solutions, and I work together with engineers every day. And I want young women and women of all ages actually to be encouraged to just take that step forward and be courageous enough and just do it. So that's why I'm supporting New York Girls. I saw that post on LinkedIn, and I felt we need to see if that's an opportunity. So I asked Birgit, who is back there. She turned all the wheels around and looked if that space was free. So
Thank
now
you,
we're here.
Birgit.
So it's a pleasure to have you all here, and I was impressed by the setup of everything here. So I'm really looking forward to what we will be to experience. So I return the stage to you. Please.
I mean, here you deal with two South Americans, you know, like we love, like whenever we see people eating or receiving gifts, we're like, yay! You know, like, you know, this is what we live for, you know, so we're like, yeah, these little notes, you know, these little presents, you know. So what you see on your seats, sorry, I don't know what's wrong with my brain. I think South America, and then I think it's Spanish automatically, no? So this is a little gift for all of you to remember this moment, and also to remember the unseen worlds that we take for granted sometimes, because you will see. So yeah, I mean, that being said, with no further ado,
right?
Introduce
Yeah,
the first
so
speakers.
tonight we were thinking of bringing really three different aspects from women working in immersive technologies, and really to bring from creativity, more creative industries, to more research field, and also really more engineer one. So we have three great speakers tonight. We will start with Katharina Krösl from XREye. Then we will have Marina, Lima, even from my same home country, so very sorry, and hometown, Rio de Janeiro, from VRVis, and then, sorry?
I'm from Fortaleza.
Fortaleza, you're from Rio.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And followed by Kris Hofmann, which will be also talking more in the creative aspect from working on our first VR film, but you've been working for so many years also in AR and education, so yeah.
Super. And also, we are not sure how we're going to be doing good in time or not. So we're going to keep a Q&A after every talk. We're going to freestyle a bit. So if we see that we're good on time, we make it interactive. We make some questions if that's okay for the three of you. And if not, we have a networking session afterwards in which we can talk to each of these wonderful ladies, and then actually get to learn their projects in detail and ask all our questions. And while we have some snacks and wine, I want to see you eat, huh? I want to see you all eat. Yeah. So yeah, without further ado, let's welcome Katharina.
Okay, hello everyone, good evening. Thank you for the nice introductions, and thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Katharina Krösl. I'm a founder and CEO of XREye, which is my little startup, which I founded this year in January. And we are a small team, and I will be telling you what we do at XREye and why we do it. And I'll actually start with the why of things. We all know what this is, right? It's an escape route sign. It shows the shortest path out of the building in case of an emergency. But for some people, it might actually look like this. Or even like this. And suddenly, it's become quite a challenge to find your way. Or imagine you're taking medication, but the packages don't look like this to you. They look like this. So this could create potentially dangerous situations if you mix up your heart medication with some painkillers. Or let's just think of an everyday thing, like you want to order your favorite food online, but the website looks something like this. These are actually common problems that a lot of people face every day. More than 2.2 billion people worldwide are affected by eye diseases or vision impairments, according to the World Health Organization. And these numbers are also rising every year because many eye diseases are actually age-related, and we have an aging population. So it's really a large number of people that are affected that we should take into account when we design our cities, buildings, emergency signage, medicine packages, website or other digital services. However, for people with normal sight, it's often hard to truly understand the challenges caused by these vision impairments. And that's where XREye comes in. Because XREye is a software to simulate eye conditions in extended reality. And before I show you more slides, I will actually show you a live demo. So I will need a volunteer. Kissy, can you help me for a second? Absolutely, yes. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. Okay, let's see how I do it. My normal eye. No, exactly. Is it okay? Yeah. Great. Awesome. And I will show you what GAPS is seeing on this screen here. So as mentioned, we simulate eye diseases in extended reality. This also includes this viewing mode, which is a 360-degree photograph. So this is a photograph of an industry hall. And this is how it looks like for a person with normal sight. And I will now show you, just a sec, how it could look like for a person with cornea disease. Oh.
So people often describe this as looking through opal glass. Everything is like milky, blurry. And you can imagine it's really hard to find your way around such an environment if your vision looks like this. But if you have a visual guidance system, such as these green, yellow stripes on the floor, it's really simple. It's just this stripes on the floor, and it can make such a difference. Because even if your vision is really poor, you can orient yourself in the surrounding. So that's why accessibility measures are so important, and we can improve so much with so little. So if I remove this again, let's see how it looks like. And now I will transform you into our virtual office. So this is our virtual reality mode. So we have this nice office space. And we can also simulate some vision impairments here. easiest one would be myopia, so short-sightedness, which means if you move very closely to anything, it will become a little bit sharper again.
I'm like,
Yeah,
but I learned the hard way.
yeah. So very close up, things become sharp, but as soon as you're a bit farther away, everything's blurry. And I can also show you a simulation of age-related macular degeneration. So here you can see in the center, everything is a bit dark and it's a little bit distorted. This is because if you have these eye disease, you basically have sort of blood building up under your retina in the center. And so the retina becomes bent and this creates these distortions, and also your photoreceptors in this area, they don't work as well as they should, so it's a bit darker, and the contrast vision is reduced, also the color vision is reduced a bit, and this could even become more severe. And something like this. I think this simulation, with this you would also already be classified as legally blind. So let's remove this again. And we have a third viewing mode, which is our augmented reality mode. Gaps.
Yes.
Please avoid too fast head movements, because some people might get a bit dizzy.
Ah, there you are.
You see your actual surroundings, like they are recorded by the front-facing cameras of the headset. And we can also simulate vision impairments here. For example, our new simulation, the diabetic retinopathy. So in this case, it's more an eye disease that affects people with diabetes, where small blood vessels in your retina are damaged. So you have these hemorrhages in the retina. And this is mostly in the periphery, it creates these dark spots. And the contrast in this area is reduced as well. And this can also become more severe, where also your central vision is affected. So you have this diabetic macular edema in the center of your vision as well. And it's really difficult to recognize faces, or if you try some things like reading a newspaper. So you can imagine it's quite hard. And as we said, many of these eye diseases affect elderly people, or let's say people over 60, and many people who are older take a lot of medication. So it's really important that you're sure you're taking the right one. So this can also be difficult if you want to try and see what you're actually taking. And this is what we also try to tell people in the medical and healthcare professions. We try to educate them or raise their awareness for which tasks they have to help people with, or which people can still do on their own if they have a certain eye disease. So if I remove this again, I have one more simulation with me, which is achromatopsia, or total color blindness. I'll just show you. So when people say they're colorblind, like totally colorblind, usually you would expect, okay, they see just black and white. But that's just not the whole story, because in our eyes, in our retina, we have these photoreceptors. We have rods and cones, and we use our rods for contrast vision, for low light scenes, and we use the cones for color vision and for sharp vision. So they are centered in the fovea, where we have the area of sharpest vision. If you're totally colorblind, it means your cones don't work anymore. And this then also means that apart from not being able to see color, you cannot see sharp anymore. and the rods have to take over. And usually in healthy eyes, we don't use our rods during daylight. We turn them off, our eyes turn them off, they just use the cones and everything's fine. And just in low light, we use the rods. So these photoreceptors are very sensitive to light. And that's why we have to use them during daylight, because we don't have any other cells that work, they create these really uncomfortable glaring effects. So you often see people running around with very dark glasses. And this is also something that many people are surprised to learn. That's why we really like to show this simulation. And I think that's the end of our live demo.
Okay.
Thank you, guys. Just turn this off.
Thank you. I'm back. No. Yeah.
Now you see how nice it is if you see clearly.
It's really whatever you do.
So a bit more information of XREye in action. Like I've shown here, we have shown our simulations at different events. And of course, we also gathered some feedback. So this was from a company internal event where users said that it's amazing tech and it helps families understand what their affected family members are experiencing, and it was a really insightful experience. And almost all of them said they would highly recommend our simulations to friends or colleagues. And we have also been exhibiting at this year's Diversity Ball, which was such an amazing experience. We also asked people there after they tested our simulation to give us some feedback, and 87% said they would really recommend it. 100% of people who tried our simulations said they gained new understanding of vision loss, and the realism was also rated quite high, and 96% reported that they had increased awareness afterwards. And yeah, this participants saw the strongest potential for our tool actually in use cases regarding education and training, healthcare, communication, and accessible design. And I'm showing you these stats because I'm a researcher at heart. I have a background in research, and this is why it's yeah, always important for me to evaluate what we are doing. So we also work a lot with ophthalmologists and opticians to make sure that our simulations are not just some vision impairment simulations, but they are medically grounded and evaluated. And here are some impressions for other events that we did. So right now as a company, we provide these event experiences where we come with all the setup like today, and we run a demo booth. We we guide users through this experience and tell them about the impairments. And we also offer awareness trainings where we set up a training schedule or a specific talk, presentation that fits the topic, so for company internal events. And we'll also be offering software licenses for our vision impairment simulations. And this concludes my talk. Thank you so much. And if you're interested in what we're doing, I would be happy if you get in touch with us.
Any burning questions?
I have a burning question. Sorry, you first.
You?
Because you said you're a researcher. While you were talking, I was wondering what your background is. Is it the research was related to
Yes.
eyesight?
Yeah, well, I have a background in computer science.
Okay.
And my research background, so my dissertation at the Technical University was actually developing the first version of XREye. And afterwards, I worked at the VRVis Research Center for a couple of years. And then at some point I decided I want to found my own company and I want to work on XREye because it was always like a project that was not put into use. And I just decided it's time to get this to people to help educate people.
But you came from the computer science to the eyesight, not from the
Yes,
eyesight
yes.
to the
I
computer
came
science.
from the computer science, and I have dangerous half knowledge of vision impairments. That's why I early on I started collaborating with ophthalmologists, and in the beginning we had like weekly meetings where we would ask tons of questions to our ophthalmologists, and how does this work, and how does this look, and how does this affect these properties of your visual system and everything, so to make sure we get it right. And we also ran studies where we evaluated the simulations with patients. So it's all like medically grounded, scientifically evaluated, and that's something we are quite proud of.
Did you have to come up with a framework on on how to talk about the different restrictions people have? Because we have a family member who has age-related macular degeneration, and it's so hard to really understand their vision, because it also seems to fluctuate across the day or on different light settings, and it's really hard to understand the restrictions and how to help them. And they're not medically trained, so that's hard for them to actually express themselves. I think that's the hardest problem we found, because simply, no, I need to hold it like this or this, no, I need to turn on this light, and it seems to be always something else that needs to be tuned.
Yeah, I totally get it. That was also something that we learned, that there is not just one form of macular degeneration. It's so different. It can be different from person to person. As you mentioned, it can even be experienced a little bit different throughout the day. It might depend on your surrounding, if you're tired or not, how the lighting in the room is, things like that. So that's why we figured, okay, we cannot just have this like one type of simulation. And that's why actually all of our simulations can be adjusted per symptom at runtime. So that was important for us, so we can show that there are really different versions of this eye disease, and it can be that someone's vision is affected more in the color perception, some people have more distortions, some people see everything more blurry. So just to show the variety of these eye diseases is also something we believe is really important.
I'm curious, what are these things that you needed for the setup of this whole thing? How does it work?
These are basically infrared sensors. So we have the HTC Vive Pro Eye here as a virtual reality headset, and it uses the patterns from these infrared sensors to orient itself in the room. So it's for tracking basically.
If it's okay for all of you, we continue the next questions during the food and drinks that you need to eat. Just, I will give them reminders, so I let's give up. XREye is reminding me so much of something that we heard a lot in the XR world for a long time. That is like, okay, XR is the ultimate empathy machine, like you hear it a lot, But at the same time, like I was never, let's say I was personally never a believer that it's an empathy machine, because it can't create empathy when there is none, But it can, however, open a path of curiosity and understanding in order to start a dialogue. And I think tools like XREye do exactly that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, in my understanding, I mean, it doesn't try to simulate every single case, let's say, but it opens a path for understanding to say, okay, life is more complicated than you believe, and you can also adapt like services, products, and your view of individuals who suffer from these conditions, and in a more like to enhance their life, to give them equal chances.
Yes, it's mainly a tool for education and raising awareness and empathy.
Yeah, So thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thank you.
So actually, he's already laughing. Like he's like, oh, she's already like mixing 3 languages at the same time. It's like. But anyway, okay. So our next speaker is Marina, Lima, Medeiros. Medeiros. I almost got it. So she's going to talk to us about the projects that she's doing at VRVis.
Yes.
And actually, I'm very excited to hear about your projects because I had a chance to read a bit about them them as well. And I won't spoil anything, no spoilers. So please welcome Marina. You need help. Yes. It is funny that the date configuration is like different in every place. No, it's like it's nice.
Okay, now I have to connect. Okay. No. Yeah. Yep. Hi. Hi again. I'm Marina Lima Medeiros. No, it's hard, but it's like my official email is medeiros@VRVis.at. But yeah, it's always a funny thing because I have 2 surnames because I come from Brazil, so it's always funny. But I'm here to talk about part of my work or part of our work at VRVis, especially as XR as media for specialized work. So VRVis is the Austria leading research institution in the field of visual computing, and I even saw like in the description when they mentioned me on this event, they said that we make connections between AI and simulation and virtual reality, and I hope you don't expect me to talk about all of these topics because VRVis is very big, and we have 3 research areas plus now a climate science module, so that we have 7 research groups. The module is our new addition, so that we created a research group and a research project just to do the sensitive adaptive planning for shaping resilient cities. But we have different people with different specialties working at VRVis. I work in the human-centered transitional visualization area in the participatory visual systems, and I know Gabis was saying that it's not about taking over the world, but as you see, our group has a very big gender imbalance problem. No, I'm just kidding. Like, we just have David working with us, but we're still women are still minority in VRVis, and the group that works beside us has like 4 guys and 1 woman working for them. So we find some balance. So the participatory visual system is actually a new group that just started this year at VRVis, and the leader of this group is Milena Vutkovic, my group leader. She's specialized in microclimate simulations, and our group. So also one thing they said, like XR is one of the research topics of VRVis, but we don't have one group that's specialized in VR, AR, or XR. So this is we are considered this as a medium, and it's something that cross sections our research as a research center. And in the participatory visual systems group, what we do is that we want to develop interactive and collaborative immersive urban planning workshop flows accessible to a broad range of users, ranging from domain experts to local authorities and to the general public, and especially bring a novel approach to climate-sensitive urban development that will foster collaboration and communication, and especially public participation in the planning process. So for us, XR is actually a way of building this participation process and
build engagement towards this planning process. They asked to talk a bit about my career path, which is so I'm actually graduated as an architect and urbanist from 2009, and then I had a master's in urbanism from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro. That's when I lived in VRVis city in 2014, and I work in VRVis since 2018 with VR and XR, AR applications for domain experts. I'm also a PhD student at TUV in informatics since 2021. Yes, as you can see, there is a gap between 2009 and 2014. Like, this is on my official CV, but I was working, I think between 2009 and 2014, I was doing a lot of workshops in urban planning, actually. So I was really, that's when I decided to do a master's in urbanism, because I really wanted to work with urbanism. And then I did my master's already with augmented reality and in public spaces, in open spaces, more as a media for architects to do urban planning, starting with it. And then in 2004, and then 2018, I started at VRVis, but because in 2017 I started a PhD at TU Graz, already wanting to work with VR and AR again, but it was in architecture. And then because I moved to Vienna, I could not finish my PhD at Graz. So then when I was working at VRVis, I started as a TU Wien PhD student then in 2021. So it's not for people like that doing this transition, it's not always like a very clear path, but you can find your path to IT and research especially. Also, like, this photo also like tells a lot why I end up in IT. It's because I had a lot of friends and a lot of curiosity, and I started programming with Arduino. When I did my master's, I did AR experiments, but not programming. And when I came to Graz, that's when I started learning how to program it. That's what gave me the work at VRVis. I'm very happy with it because we published a paper and we presented this in a conference, and this is me in the conference. And it's about bananas and how to measure temperature and colors of bananas. It is an official publication. Okay, so my research focus. So I don't know, this is not my work. This is Google Earth VR. But I want to take you to my city, Fortaleza. That usually takes me, if I'm lucky, 14 hours to get there with good connections. I'll take you there in 1 minute. With Google Earth VR, but what I want you to pay attention is, like, in Google Earth VR, you actually have a model of the Earth connected to your controller. You have a model of the Earth in a room area, and then you can zoom in and fly over until you really get into one-to-one experience of the environment. So if you zoom in and you fly, and then you can finally look at there. And then you have this immersive one-to-one experience of what it looks like. In this case, it's a 360-degree photograph. It's not a 3D reconstruction, but you get this immersive experience. And why did I really started working with, as an architect, I started interested in XR themes to research, because I think XR can subvert our space-time logic. So basically, what you saw, you have Earth, right, planet Earth, but in VR or even in AR also, you can have it in different sizes, and you can manipulate it, or you can walk around it, or then you can fly into it until you can walk inside, like an immersive experience of it. And when I mention like it subverts our space-time logic, is because even the time, and this is my master's thesis that I did, so this is a building that used to exist in the center of the city of Rio de Janeiro. It was an important building, was even like the headquarters of our Senate once, and it was demolished. But people still think a lot about this building, and some mayors once in a while, so now we should rebuild it. And then what I did is that I actually made an AR experiment to visualize it where it used to be built. So so you can see that also like XR technology, they brings this, you can actually have the past together with the present. You can also have a glimpse of the future if you have the project or the design of a new building that is not built yet. You can see it in the location where it will be built. And it's like, in this, it makes this by different ways. So basically you can do by altering the scale of objects for the automatic change of the point of view. So in VR, for example, I can be looking at something from this side, and I can in the next second I can be looking from the other side. Also, you can change the proportion between the user's body and digital objects can change dynamically. Games do this already, which is also, for example, this A Fisherman's Tale. It's a VR game. There is actually a puzzle game that you are in a room, that you have the 3D model of the same room, like in a smaller scale, and then you have to pick up objects. When you pick up objects from the big room to the smaller room, they change the scale, and the small one to the big one, they change scale, and you have to actually fix a puzzle with this changing of sizes of objects. And for example, for domain experts, for specialists, for people who work, this means that this can expand the interactive work environment beyond the desktop screens. You can have new insights or maybe better solutions for old questions, or even more productive workflows. So this is an old project that we had in VRVis together with AVL. It was the AVL VR, so basically they had simulations on engines of cars. And what you see, this colored filter, is actually because you are inside a sphere where they had sound simulation. So actually in VR you could have this spatial sound simulation, and doesn't make any sense for us, but for the engineers, the sounds really, the different with sounds in the space makes a lot of difference for them. And also you can see that there's a one-to-one scale mode, because you can also like scale up and down, so you can actually have like details, scale it up and see in the details, I scale it down to see it, have a whole view of the engine. As a researcher, what happens is that the best practice and standards for this kind of interactivity do not exist yet. And when it actually adds values to a work routine is also an open question. So I'm going to show you now like 2 projects that they are the use cases for my PhD that I'm still doing. And that I will show like how we're exploring this and how I'm exploring this in my research. So they were co-designed together with specialists from each field. I came to VRVis as an architect that knew how to do some programming. They said, oh, there is no, unfortunately, no urban planning project right now, but we have a project with the army. Can you work with the army? I was like, yes, you can work with the army. And then the first one is called Mil Geova. So it's a mission planning in virtual reality project. So what happens is that the army has to plan missions, and how do they do nowadays? They have a simulation-based training that have interdisciplinary high-level military personnel. So they come up with some problems, some issues. So we have to rescue some people in some area. There's mountainous area, not easy access. And how they do nowadays is that they do by having several maps, and also some people with computers that make some analysis of those areas for them. And then we had to recreate this in VR. And as the army, of course, what they always have someone who takes care of the equipment. So, and also do this, so part of this analysis in the desktop. So what we created was this collaborative setup where one person is in VR and the other person is in the desktop. So what you're gonna see, the screen is divided in 2 because this is the VR view of the user in VR, and the other one is the one that's in the desktop. So we had, for example, teleportation in VR in first person. Then you have, as I mentioned, like you go in first person scale. We could make annotations in 3D. We had those markers, which are very important for the planning process. this is also like a tabletop mode, as we call it, where you can place an avatar and then you go into this position in 1:1 scale. So here you see collaborative annotations, where the person in VR is writing, is making annotations in the terrain, and the person in the desktop is changing the opacity of the terrain and the texture of the terrain. Also, like they used to work with several thin paper layers or plastic layers on top of maps, and then we had to create this layers scheme that also in the VR system. This is a visibility analysis, so that where you hold as sort of a puppet, and then you can see as if what is green is what a person would see in that position. So yes, we did some, as Kathy said, researchers do evaluations, and we talk to people. In this case, it was a qualitative evaluation, and what happens is that, so what they said, like the difference that came with the VR application, right? So they had a more intuitive perception of the spatial data. The terrain annotation and quantitative analysis are essential for the tactical planning. And also what they said is that the precise placements of annotation was very important to them. So what happens when you work in a map is 1 to 200, or I think they work especially with 1 to 100,000, which means 1 centimeter in the papers means 100,000 centimeters in real life. So actually to take measurements in a map is, you don't know the precision, but in VR, when you go into the 1:1 scale, you can actually know if that road will pass the truck that they need to pass or not. So this was actually, we had also one, they say that one case where the group that used VR actually made a better planning because they used VR, because they could actually see that from a position like that, that they would not be seeing, or something like that. The next project is the opposite direction, but yeah, it's called the DigiHydro project. So yes, from working with the army, then I started working with mechanical engineers, because what happens is that Austria has a lot of hydroelectric power plants. And those hydroelectric power plants, they were designed around the 70s or the 80s, some years ago. And nowadays we have different sources of electricity. And what happens is that the hydroelectric power plants, they're basically working to you have to take other sources of energy first, like solar and wind, and then the water, the hydroelectric power plants, they came just to fill up the production capacity. So what they were designed to produce, to be like 83% of the maximum capacity, they are now working at 50%, sometimes 30%. And this can lead into damages in the turbines, to the point that they don't know when it's even profitable or not to produce energy, if this is damaging more the turbine or not. And the GGHydro project, basically, it's a much larger project, was not only in VR or AR. It was a project where, together with the research unity, with fluid flow machinery from the TU Wien, what they did is that they placed several sensors in a working turbine in the hydroelectric power plant. And then they were combining simulated plus sensor measured data to try to come up with data-driven predictions of the lifetime of the mechanical parts of the hydroelectric power plants. This is how they usually see the data. So basically, this is showing like when the turbine is working with 20% capacity, 40% capacity, 60, 80, 100% capacity of energy production. So what they do is that they usually do like this. They see several plots together. This is their work on the desktop. Sometimes they have to print out all those plots. And then we talk to them and like, why VR? And actually, the decision of using VR and not AR or a desktop solution actually came from them. So why VR? For them was the possibility of visualizing and interacting with many plots of sensor collected data at once, because as I said, they had to print it out to compare them. And like in AR, you can explode the desktop area, as I said. Also in the combination of abstract and spatial data, with the possibility to locate the data visualizations in the relative position where they were extracted. So we have what we had was a 3D model of a turbine, and then you could navigate inside of those water flow simulations, where you can also find the position of sensors. And in these positions, you could find the data that was related to the sensors, and then you could manipulate also all these plots of data. You could place them, and you can interact, select to compare them. So again, we did an evaluation, and what the conclusion was, for example, that the combination of the spatial and the abstract data in VR gives a complete overview of the underlying problems of the field. They found a great potential for education and learning, but more especially, they found that VR would be a very good way of problem investigation. So what they mentioned is like, okay, the operator is there, everything is running okay. Nobody will want to wear a VR headset for things that are going okay. But then when you have a problem, and then you could go back into the sensor data from that problem time, and then with the simulated data also compare and look at and see where the problem might come from. And also they said that some details, for example, this one of the water going inside of the turbine, were better visualized in VR. So to start my conclusion, so in our participatory visual systems group, we like to use VR, think of VR and AR as media. This is also something that I learned since my master's. One of the reviewers, I was saying, because AR is a tool for architects and urban planners, and then she said, like, you're comparing AR with a hammer. Like, this is not a hammer. This is a media. This is a way of showing information to people and telling a story. And looking for those moments. And also this is, even our users, our partners, they see this, because also like in one of our papers, in the interview of the participants, he said VR is a frame in which geoinformation products can preserve. It's an additional medium. So for us, it's very important for me, especially as a researcher, it's very important to think as VR and AR as media. And also look for those moments when it subverts the space-time logic. Also, like they told me that was a talk about like convincing women to go into tech and IT. And yesterday I was actually talking with 2 women colleagues, and they said that I don't want to go to this workshops about women in AI or women when they go to conferences. Because it's always like, oh, you come here and you do like the same thing that they talk to guys. It's all you will use your passion, your effort, and it's not like this. Your effort won't always be enough. But what I've learned, and I also learned this from one of those talks for women, I think was in the IEEE Women, that value the opinion of people who support you, because you'll always find people who will support you. So there are people that will not support you, they won't want you there, but there is always going to be people who will support you, who want you there. I found many, many, many great friends. And that said, thank you to Kat Krösl, because she was really important for me in my research.
Any questions? Okay. Actually, I have a question. I will try to formulate it in a way that is understandable, because I have like many questions that I will try to compress into one. Especially when it comes to VR and AR being seen as a medium, no? Because it's happening as well with AI now. That is like, okay, if your mission is home improvement, why do you glorify the hammer and say that the hammer can do everything? No, I mean, this is a bit like what is happening. Like everything has to have AI, otherwise it's not like the latest thing. No, So when it comes to the development of VR and AR experience that actually makes sense for a medium, you know, like what is your experience when it comes to like those who come to you searching for a solution, no? Like let's say the expectations versus reality, no? Of what the technology can offer versus what is in the fantasy perhaps of the person that comes to you. If you could share a bit of
I think there are two things. I think there is a thing, also a push from the industry that it feels like VR, I work more with VR, but AR too, but especially with VR, when we have everything perfectly simulated, looking very, very photorealistic, when we can move as we move in real life, then VR will be, then everybody will use VR. But I think it's the other way, actually it's the other way. Like the first thing I also gave a talk recently, I said, I can fly in VR. It's like, so why are we looking into like things that we can do without VR or AR, like to do it with? I don't think you will convince people to use this medium by trying to convince this that is the same thing as not having it. So our approach at least has been more like, what do you think only VR could give you? You know, and then that's why I think that this subversion of this space-time logic makes a lot of difference. Also, yes, and it requires a lot of engagement to put a headset like on your head, even if it's an AR headset that you're always wearing. Like there is some engagement there. So it's like you really have to show what this can do differently from what the physical material physical reality gives us already. That's what I would go for it. Yeah. And as well for AI, I would think it's the same. Like if I don't know, okay, yeah, I can do some stuff that I can do without AI, but faster. But also I would pick on stuff that are like more that you cannot do without it. That only this. Yeah, I think faster maybe. Yeah, faster is the thing that that makes a lot of difference. Yeah, that would be my take.
Any questions? Because I can keep going, you know, but I'm like I would just I will pick your brain during the the break. So you
No, thank you so much, Marina. And we would like to invite you. We can have questions all together. I think it's also nice to have kind of a discussion afterwards, combining like all the different research and projects. So we would like to invite now on stage our speaker of tonight, Kris Hofmann. Kris has been working with animation for many years, especially with AR and education field for children, and she's just released her first VR film, which premiered at the Venice Biennale this year, so we are very excited to hear more about that. Hell! Give it a second.
Okay.
Hello, yeah. No, it's doing it. I told you.
Just wants to say hello many times. Hello.
Everybody
Manuel managed to fix it before.
I just
Like
touched
with
it.
his magic touch.
Ja, van
Ja, dat is een wackelkontakt van de
No, it's right here. No.
You need to touch it once more.
Ja, het is wackelcontact.
If you want, one of us can stand and just like hold it while you.
No, it's good.
I'm just standing up.
Just eat Ida, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, you
on.
gotta stay with me.
Yeah.
I'm really close. I will join if you need me again.
Yeah.
Hello. So I'm Kris. Thank you, Flavia, for the introduction and for the nice words. As Flavia was already saying, I have a background in this is so different to what we've heard already today. So yeah, here are my bookworms. So I have a background in animation. A long time ago, I studied communication art and design at the Royal College of Art in London, and then worked parallel to my studies and afterwards in various roles in the animation industry in the UK. So I worked as an animator, as an art director, sometimes director, and also worked for a company called Nexus Productions, who back then, 2012, they already had Nexus Interactive Art. So that was my first contact with augmented reality. They did a wonderful little piece where you could scan the dollar note for the White House, back when America had a nice president, which is really fitting for this evening because it was all about promoting female scientists. And then in 2018, I've Brexited myself and came back to Vienna, which gave me the wonderful opportunity to rethink a little bit what I want to do with my life, because you don't get to that in London very much. And I decided I wanted to focus on, first, augmented reality, but immersive experiences, really. So as Flavia was already saying, I got a pretty strong focus on augmented reality, but I've just finished my first virtual reality film. Because I think the exciting thing for me about augmented reality was that it was essentially an extension of mixed media animation. So these were like my style of animations back in the UK, and there were always 3D objects and 2D drawings, and it was mixing different styles. And essentially that's what augmented reality is. It's mixing reality with animation. So this is what happens when you do design with PowerPoint. So I wear 3 hats. I do immersive experiences for children and young people as commissioned work, and I'm also an expert advisor for XR at the AIT Center for Technology Experience, where I work and advise some brilliant scientists. So I'm very much enjoying this role for a year, but I won't talk about it today. And then I make my own immersive films. And when Flavia called me to ask if I wanted to speak to you, I was first of all going like, oh my God, November. But also, I was getting a bit frustrated because you see, this works quite well in Austria. So I'm sure we've heard about from brilliant scientists now. Science is all right. I mean, we could always do with more money, of course, but there is funding for science. Immersive experiences for children and young people, as people will know in the professional world, it's difficult, to convince people to invest in XR, but it's possible. This in Austria is a desert. It's a wasteland. We don't have any funding for these things, which is, I'm gonna try to change that now. But I've had, as Flavia was saying, at the premiere of my film at Venice Immersive this year, and I went there 2 years ago already to the gap financing market, and everybody was like, oh my God, somebody from Austria. Because yes! There's my friend Gerda Leopold, which was a speaker at XR Austria before. She's doing that, but it's not many people, and that's not because we don't have brilliant people, it's just because we don't have funding. So, but first to the children focus. I didn't decide I wanted to work with children. I just felt when I started to work with augmented reality, which is the first project I'm going to introduce afterwards, that there is a natural way that children learn that works with augmented reality, because it's not static. I always love this sentence when people say about XR, that it takes you from being a passive recipient of media to an active explorer. And that's how children move, and that's how children learn. And it was so satisfying when I did my first experience, when you see children actually exploring. And then, you give it to my mom, and she's just standing there and trying to do this. This didn't really work. But anyway, I think this is why I naturally slid into working for children. And as you all probably know, it just happens to be that way, that when you do something, that kind of work keeps coming your way. So there's a focus on children. This is a virtual reality piece, which we just finished for the Fondation Brigitte Bardot, which I wanted to prepare as a trailer, but I didn't get around to it. Next time. It's November, don't worry.
November, we do another event tomorrow.
So this was my very first augmented reality project, and it's called The Bookworms. which is a location-based augmented reality story that we did in collaboration with the Austrian National Library. So you have these 3 bookworms, Anna, Bruno, and Wolf, and they ask children the question, how do we know what is true and what is not? How do we distinguish fact from fiction? You know, I just came from Britain with Brexit, so I was very touchy about facts. And what we did, which we picked 6 places in the National Library where these scenes appear. So children scan a QR, and this is 5 years ago, you know, so children scan like this picture and then the bookworms appear. And I actually think this project is a lasting testament for that augmented reality and XR can last, because we did this in 2019. It opened 2020, and just as we're getting people to come, COVID happened. Great. But they had such a positive reception on it that they last year extended the license, so they got it for another 3 years. I think the reason why I added all these newspaper articles is, of course, because I want everybody to know how great I am, but also because this was satisfying. Because I think one of the biggest challenges that we have with XR is to break out of our bubble a little bit, you know, to find audiences that are not already familiar with XR. And to have the bookworms in Heute was a bit of a success, you know. Yes, so I was very happy about being in the yellow press. Although you have to cut this off, because right underneath it's a horribly racist article, so it's just like rubbish. And I'll show you a little trailer, which is in German, so I apologize to everybody, but I think you get the gist.
Bruno, alles okay?
Ja, hui. Wenn das ein Himmelsglobus ist, wo sind denn da die Sterne? Ist er das? Der Prinz Eugen?
Nein, das ist Karl VI.
God, it's making me feel old, because this is my little sister and she's way older now. Okay, so I'm gonna zap through 3 projects. Oh my God. I'm sorry for not moving this. This is a project we did for 4 Paws, the animal rights group, where they have bear sanctuaries in different countries around the world, in Vietnam, in Bulgaria, and in Kosovo, and this one is for Kosovo. So we wanted to create a character that teaches is the wrong word, that tells the story of how the bears got there to young visitors. Something I learned from the bookworms, and this is the reason why I picked this, is that while the bookworms is great because it's site-specific, you know, we scanned the library, it's a total overkill, huge LiDAR scan of the library for 3 little bookworms, but you can only play it there, and in terms of scale and audiences is a bit of a problem. So for this one, it works on site. You know, the kids have a picture where they scan it, and then it works specifically next to where the rescued bear is. But it also works at home, so it's a bit of a dual thing. So this is Aura, and as you can already see, the background as an animator comes through, because I went through the horrific work of painting every single one of these boards in the background. But I guess that's something that comes from being a craftsperson. I enjoy that part, so I always try and find a little role for myself in XR production instead of just passing it on. Show you the trailer now. No, I'm not going to show you the trailer. Oh yeah, yes. Now I already know. So this is the technology.
Hello. My name is Aura. Wild animals belong in the wild. At the sanctuary, everything is different. You don't have to entertain anyone ever again.
this is something I wanted to say and then forgot. So maybe just a little background. She has this magic wand, and this is an idea that I now really like, but it actually came from the problem that we didn't have enough budget. So like they wanted this whole world being built up where you can see the bear suffering, and then they're in the forest, and we're like, well, that's gonna be tricky. So she has this magic wand where she transforms pictures of suffering bears into pictures of where they're now, which is like an environment very close to their natural habitat. So I've got two. Am I like really taking too much time already? No. Okay. So I got two projects now, because see the ones before were always in a partnership, but the thing that I was moaning about before, where we don't have funding in Austria, is because I guess a lot of people, especially now that this medium is so young, come to it and have an idea of something you want to do, where it's not necessarily for a client, but you approach somebody that you could collaborate with. And this was one of these projects. We did it with the VRVis Gallery in London, the Bug Farm in Wales, the VRVis Science Centre in Norway, and worked with 4 entomologists, brilliant experts on dragonflies and beetles, to create an augmented reality story that tells children the story of insect decline, tell you why insects are so important to planetary health, and therefore to us, why they're in danger and what you can do to help them. And
the small changes that we make in our backyards do have impact. So you can design your living space to foster insect habitat and to make places where insects can thrive.
so the red thread you may already see in my own work, but also in, as I said, I work at the IIT, is my love for scientists. So not like you, I don't have a background in science at all, but I love working with them because I think you can learn so much and there's always new conversations. So for my VR film, which we finished in May, I picked another science-related subject, and that is the relationship of extreme weather events to climate change. Something that I found over and over again is that it's very hard for some reason to get people to see and feel the immediacy of a problem. So there is a vast percentage of the population already knows, okay, climate change is here, it's happening, but there is no urgency in it. So we thought maybe by using virtual reality to put people into the shoes of somebody who experienced an extreme weather event, in our case a flood, it deals with the floods that happened in Austria in 2021 in Hallein in Austria, in Salzburg. Maybe we can create some sort of urgency that this isn't a problem that is far away anymore, this is a problem that is right here with us. But like with so many things, you don't want to just highlight the problem, you want to propose one of the solutions. And one of the beautiful climate solutions that we have is nature. So we can fend, the best thing we can do to defend ourselves from floods is to invest in natural riparian zones and alluvial forests. So out of nowhere, that's the name of the 10-minute animated VR piece, is not so much about climate change, but about a climate solution. We did that I developed it at the Biennale College, which is like a course or like a workshop that Biennale has been offering for 6 years now, where you basically locked on a small island with brilliant people who help develop your story, which is what I did with the project. And like Flavia was saying, we premiered it at the Biennale in September, and it's been doing really well. So we've been invited to, I wish actually now, if I would have known it's such a small group, I would have brought the film. But I just came from a conference in Hamburg, Next Reality conference, where I had the film with me, and all I did the whole day was onboarding people. So, but yeah, next time. So I'll play a little trailer and then I show some process pictures. Nope.
I was a teacher, I got married, raised my children, all here, all in the same place. And then, well, that day, there was the rain.
It all started with an image I drew of the devastation in Hallein that I saw in pictures in 2021. And I actually think I looked back at this when I prepared this, and it actually looks pretty similar. So this is my very first concept frame, and this is how it ended up looking. That scene at least. And as I said before, as you might have seen in the project, I love to draw. So I had to find, as an animator, I always did a lot of the work myself, and I really missed that when I started to work with XR, because it's like, what am I doing now? I'm just telling other people do this. But then I discovered textures, and that was really something that I found as my part within the production, where I can be also a craftsperson. So we went to, this is just one scene, I don't want to show every single scene, but from the trailer, you've seen every single leaf, every single flower, every single tiny house, and every big house. I painted them all by hand. It's a lot of work. So we went first to Halle and did some scans and ended up with some terrible nerves. But we used them at least for the grey boxing, then developed the setting, and then I painted literally every single house. Now, I know that this is excessive. I spent hundreds and hundreds of hours on this. But I'm getting to the last slide of the presentation, and this is actually, I'm also glad I'm the last one now, because that's something that I think would be really valuable to talk about, which is the intersection between these fields. Because I see so many more commercial applications get stuck at this stage. You know, they're quite dry, and VR, it's like you said, I thought it was really clever, it's a medium, you have to design it. It's not just in itself finished. And that's why I think so many people who are just interested in the medium, and they put a headset on and then it just, well, this doesn't look so good. I think there is potential, I know this is excessive, but there is potential to add this little touch of design to VR also in other fields and improve it. When I applied for a job at the AIT about exactly 2 months and a year ago now. I'm working there for a year. And when I started to look for a job in Austria, I found there is no such job as designer of XR. It was really, really weird, because going back to what you said about the medium, every app you use, every house you build, there is a designer behind it. You know, you have the people building it and you have the people designing it. You have the people making the website, you have the people designing the website. For some reason in XR, we don't do that. You know, they do it in America, they do it in big companies in the UK. But here, all the jobs I found were either for technologists or producers. So there was this job of the designer, I couldn't find anything. Has probably also to do with the scale of things in Austria. I know that small companies do it, you have the designers, but the big companies, where are the designers? So kudos to the head of our center who hired me, because it was a bit of an odd application, but he felt that I have something to add to the scientists there, and I actually think it's true. I hope to be able to say that after, maybe they don't say that, but I do think so, that I have something to add there with a different perspective to XR. And in the other way around, I've seen that I've found something in science papers that feeds into my own work, which has been really exciting. I'm developing a game right now that is in part inspired by a science paper I read that I would have never read if I wouldn't have started to work with some brilliant people at the AIT. So So I do think there are synergies here that aren't exploited to the max. So maybe we can talk about that. That's it.
Let's see, we have time for one question now, or
We can do it when we drink.
well, one question.
My question is because I work more with VR and now we're working with AR and with mobile phones. We have a project that I didn't show because it's still ongoing. How is your strategy to make? Do you think the simpler, the better the interaction in AR with a smartphone, or?
I think simple is not the problem. It's just you have to be consistent with it. So I found that what helped us is to have one core interaction, and you repeat that. So I think people get very confused when it's too many different things. So like with Aura, the 4 poles, that's an interactive app. So you have like in the middle of the story, they're always like 60 to 90 seconds long, or it's, oh, I can't remember, where's my notes now? And she's looking for her note, she's all stressed, and then you have to find the note, you tap it, and then the note falls down, Aura catches it, and then she's, okay, da-da-da. And the note is always in a different place, but the interaction, like the tapping, is always the same. And I mean, the virtual reality film that you've seen, that's something that I would improve next time. I mean, I think it's not like like we just won a prize for it at Manchester Animation Festival. It's the interactivity is very intuitive. Personally, I think it can be improved because we have this, like what you said about the space-time, you know, like you have the beginning scene and the end scene. You look at the world, you know, you have this bird's eye view of the little town, you know, that how it was before, and then afterwards you have this bird's eye view of a forest that you can protect with your hands. And there the interaction is like this, you know, protection. And then when you're like in the middle of the whole, like if you're like when you're in the 3D world, then there is all this other interaction. You could pick up boats and stuff. It works, but I think next time I want to be more consistent with that. So yeah, consistency would have been the short answer. Sorry for.
No, thank you.
Well, let's give another applause for Kris. So our talk segment has come to an end. Thank you very much to our brilliant speakers. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for being here and imparting your knowledge with us and having this exchange. Thank you so much to all of you for being here. And Doris for being brave enough for organizing an event together with us.
Thank you.
And also, of course, Kat as well for hosting us today. And we're very grateful that you offered your lovely home to us. And also to the Bridgers Agentur that is actually probably watching this video later. Thank you so much as well for your support to make all these events happening. And I just want to leave you with 3 unsolicited pieces of advice because we have, I mean, as you can imagine, we have been doing these events for 10 years, right? So we have seen a lot of things. We have met a lot of people. We have seen the technology change so much in these 10 years, no? But there are 3 things that remain constant of what we have seen in all this time. That is the advice number 1, no? That is, first comes the why and then the wow. Think of why you want to make these experiences. Think of how you want to move people with it. The reason why you want to use VR or AR and not something else. So think of the why before the wow. Then first comes the heart and then the hardware. Think of your audience first. Think of how they're going to feel before, during, and after your experience. And this is not only a question of how much impact I want to have, what is going to look good on my report, it's the hearts and the legacy that you're going to leave after this project. And third, there is no risk-free innovation. We can't go to someone or form a team saying, hey, let's do an innovation project just like that person over there. No, I mean, you're creating the impossible. And this comes with a lot of heartache, it comes with a lot of disappointments, it comes with a lot of, like Kris said, a lot of hours that we would have to invest on our own to find the answers to the questions that no one else has probably. And join up, join people, talk to people about your ideas. Don't be afraid of being wrong. Like this, fear is a lie. So, so that being said, thank you very much, everyone. And now, eat and drink.
No, I'm just happy for this event because the new IT goals. I was before asked how are we planning our events, and we are planning it with heart at the topics we drive or we are curious about. And this topic is I'm very interested in this topic, but I didn't get the feeling during my work, so I decided to join to get information, to feel and see what you are all doing. And yeah, thank you for that insights for me. And yeah, let's go to have a
You should come to our Christmas event on December 16th. We always make handmade cookies and with a lot of love. So
exactly, we make the cookies ourselves, no?
Yes. It's just in 3 weeks or so, yeah.
Yes.
Everybody's welcome.
And we're going to make a recap of the year. We're going to talk about the projects that we have, like the community has been doing. So you're all invited, and more information at xraustria.com. So yes, and now we eat it.